Hello, welcome to Wilson's BBQ. If you're in the UK, you might have seen that Sainsbury's, a large supermarket chain for those not in the UK, have started selling on trial basis brisket point ends. So usually in the UK we get rolled flats when it comes to brisket in supermarkets. They've started selling these and I saw it whilst I was shopping and I thought I'll pick one up. So I normally cook a lot of USDA, so high marble briskets, and when I do cook a UK brisket, a grass-fed brisket, I normally go to someone like Philip Warren Butchers who just have real high quality, consistent beef. And I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with other UK briskets, just in terms of lack of consistency and lack of fat, but I thought, well, I'll give this a go, cook it just as I would a normal brisket, try and get the best out of it, maybe give you some tips and just generally do a bit of a review on this piece of meat. 2.2 kilograms and it cost me $21.28. The shape of it doesn't look too bad right now, but I'm going to be assessing the amount of fat cap on it, the intramuscular fat, and just generally the shape. There are the kind of three things that I'm going to be looking for. So straight out of the packet, I can see that looks like they have taken some of the decal fat out. So it's kind of in two pieces here, cut away a lot of that decal. So we've got the flat muscle here, and then we've got the point muscle here. Overall, the flat muscle doesn't look like is particularly well marbled, which is to be expected. Amount of fat on the point. Again, not a lot of marbling in there. So I'm probably going to cook this a bit hotter and faster than I usually would a brisket. My plan was, if this had sufficient marbling in it, you know, as good as a UK grass-fed from a supermarket could have, I was going to cook it fairly slow, but because this is a lot leaner than I expected, I'm probably going to cook it a little bit faster, a little bit hotter and faster. In terms of trimming, doesn't look like I need to do anything with that. The fat that it has got on it, I'm definitely going to try and keep. Don't want to lose any of it. Overall, shapes, not the best. But yeah, let's get into it. So I'm going to be cooking this on the Franklin barbecue pit offset. Just try to give it the best possible outcome. Firstly, going to go in with some just straight black pepper. Definitely doesn't need any binder because it's straight out the packet. It's pretty moist. We're going to go in with Good Rubs Texas AF for that salt and pepper mix. So it's pretty much a ratio of 2:1 salt and pepper. Make sure to get the sides. So we pretty much got it seasoned up, 2 parts pepper, 1 part salt. Not overly happy with the shape of it, but it is what it is. I'm still going to cook it on the offset, just like I would any other brisket. So we'll go get the Franklin pit fired up, establish a good coal bed. So we're going to cook this somewhere between 150 Celsius and 170 Celsius for the majority of the time. That's about 300 Fahrenheit to 350 Fahrenheit. Probably keeping on the lower end whilst it's unwrapped. Once we get a good bark and it starts to dry out a little bit on the surface, I'll wrap it in butcher paper and then probably finish it off in the oven. So at about 150 Fahrenheit, we're going to go in, we're going to put the point end, or what there is of the point end, towards the fire because it's a little bit fattier than the flat away, and we're just going to let that cook for probably about three hours, check on it, and it might be time to wrap. So it has been about 3 hours and I think that's probably about as far as I'm going to take it. It's got good colour on it, nice little bark forming, a few crispy bits, which is fine. Fat's starting to render, pretty much ready to wrap, so let's get it inside, get it wrapped. Bit crusty on top, which is fine, that's just the way it is when you're cooking hot and fast. As I say, good colour on it, and I'm just going to try and do our best at wrapping this considering its shape, but we'll wrap it nice and tight and should come out nicely. So a lot of people use foil for leaner pieces of brisket or leaner pieces of meat because they think it keeps in more moisture, which it does, but the kind of moisture that it's keeping in there is water, and I don't want any extra water in my brisket. I want to keep all the fat in, which the butcher paper will do, but it will also allow some of that water moisture to evaporate because it's a little bit more porous. So the reason why I'm not using foil is because I don't want to retain any water. I want to get rid of all the water in the brisket and just keep the fat, because that is what's going to make the brisket feel and taste moist, not water. That's just going to dilute the flavour of the beef. So we're going to put this into the oven. The brisket doesn't know whether it's in the smoker or in the oven at this point, and all it really needs is heat. We don't need any more smoke. So this is going to go into the oven about 350 Fahrenheit or 170 Celsius, and then we will check it with the thermopen probably in about an hour and a half to 2 hours. If it's probing real soft like warm peanut butter, we'll get it out and let it rest. Right, so I've been probing the brisket with my thermopen. It's feeling pretty tender right now. Temperature inside is about 100 Celsius. Feeling very tender about 10-15 minutes ago, so I'm pretty sure it's done. So I'm just gonna get it out of the oven, make sure that it's definitely tender all the way around, and then we'll let it rest. So it's pretty tender in most places. I think we're a little bit tight in the very center of that flat. So we'll probably go in for another 20 minutes, maybe half an hour, take it back out, probe it again, and we should be good. Right, so this is probing, real tender, time to give it a rest. So I'm ready to eat this pretty much as soon as it's cooled down to a good serving temperature. So I'm just gonna let it rest on the kitchen counter. If you wanted to eat this later, you could obviously put it into a cooler, but make sure that you let it cool down first. The carryover heat's gonna keep cooking it. If we were to put it straight into a cooler now, it could overcook, dry out. So just let it rest a little bit before you go and do that, if you're trying to hold it for maybe dinner later on. As I say, I'm ready to eat this as soon as it's cooled down. So we're gonna leave it to rest for probably about 2 hours, and we'll cut into it and see how we did. Right, so this has been resting for about an hour and a half. I've checked it with the thermopen. It's about 150 Fahrenheit or about 65 Celsius. So good temperature to slice into. So we'll cut it open and see what it looks like. We've got our flat here, we've got our point here. So I'm just gonna take a couple of slices. Right, so let's just take a slice. So I'm just angling the cuts around just to follow the grain of the flat. We'll try and get a nice bit through the middle. A little bit dry, definitely nice and tender. Definitely not the driest brisket I've seen, and if I squeeze it, you can kind of see that there is some nice fat in between the muscle fibers, which is pretty good. It's not completely dried out, so it pulls apart nicely. That's got a real good beefy flavour, which you expect from grass-fed, more what we're used to in the UK. So again, a little bit dry. It's drying out quite quickly there, but that's fine. So we'll take a slice from the point end. That is pretty nice. There's a nice amount of fat between all the muscle fibres. It's rendered out quite nice. Not one for normally squeezing the meat, but I'm sure people will be interested. There we go. Considering this has been bought in just Sainsbury's, not even at the butcher counter, I'm really impressed with that. So we've got some nice little burnt ends there. Really, really nice flavour. I'm really hoping that the lighting is doing this justice. Definitely the point end, the actual point muscle on it turned out pretty good. There's a nice amount of moisture in there, got a good bark on it, and it didn't dry out. This bit in particular is really, really moist, much closer to what we're used to in the UK in terms of beef flavour. The flat end, definitely a lot drier, not a lot of marbling going on in there at all, but still really, really good flavour. And it's drying out a lot quicker, even though it's had a real long rest. It's drying out, but it's still really good. Really impressed with that. Really impressed with certain parts of it. The actual point muscle is is perfect. We couldn't really ask for much more. Definitely leaner than what I'm used to, but that's fine. That big old burnt end. And these point slices are actually pretty good. You can see the lean muscle there, which is a bit drier. I mean, for 20 quid from Sainsbury's, can't ask for much more. So generally, I think that's a really good product. The fact that you can just go into a Sainsbury's and pick up a brisket point and it not be a rolled flat, I think it's awesome. If you maybe want to get into trying your first brisket cook and you don't want to spend a load of money online, or go into a butcher and buy like a 6 kilogram beast full packer, and you have access to a Sainsbury's, I would definitely recommend giving this a go. Really impressed with the point muscle. Expected the flat to be dry or less marbled, and it was, but it's still, you know, there's nothing wrong with it. It's still pull apart. It's not like it's just turned to chalk, which some of them do, or I have seen some of them do. It's still tender. Definitely give it a go. I don't know if I'll be buying these again, because you know there are plenty of other options for good UK grass-fed beef. The shape of it, I'm not really overly happy with. The slices didn't come out very good. This is definitely going to make really good chili and tacos, and can't be mad about that. So if you like this video and you want to see me do more videos like this, please give it a like. I really appreciate it. Go follow me on Instagram, subscribe to the channel. That really helps me out. And hopefully more UK viewers will subscribe, because the majority of people on here are US viewers. So it'd be really good to find more UK people watching this channel. I'd really appreciate it. So thanks very much for watching. I'll see you again in a couple of weeks for another video.